Tonight on The Roast, we look at Tony Abbott's first week as Prime Minister, and Colin Barnett calls for an increase in GST. But first...
Union boss Paul Howes has announced he won't be a candidate for Bob Carr's Senate seat. Two reasons. One, Bob Carr's still sitting in it. And two...
If I was to be a candidate for this position, it would be a divisive, negative and destructive fight within the New South Wales branch of the Australian Labor Party.
Yeah, leave that to the federal Labor Party. Howes also acknowledged that being outspoken about policies like same-sex marriage may have put him at odds with some in the Labor Party.
Sometimes I should probably be a little bit more faceless when I am dealing with some of my policy issues.
More faceless? This is the man who wrote the book Confessions of a Faceless Man. How do you get more faceless than faceless? My guess is you get EC, the freakish doll from 90s kids show Liftoff, take a gelato spoon and scoop out the front of the faceless head. Of course, this has all come about due to speculation that former Foreign Minister Bob Carr will quit his position as Senator. Now, I'm not saying he was only in it for the frequent flyer miles. He was also in it for the free pyjamas. Victorian opposition leader Daniel Andrews has been suspended from Parliament for 3 days after he challenged rulings and raised points of order. Mr Andrews refused to leave when the Speaker asked him to exit the chamber and still didn't budge when the Speaker called in the Sergeant-at-Arms. But that's not surprising when you consider the Sergeant-at-Arms is this unarmed non-sergeant whose responsibilities normally include coordinating ceremonial functions and oversight of the tours unit. A motion was then put forward to suspend Mr Andrews for 3 days, but the vote was tied due to the absence of independent MP Jeff Shaw, who was apparently unable to attend because he was sick. Poor guy. Just on Tuesday he gets charged with fraud-related offences and now he's sick. Jeff, I'd stay home if I were you. You've come down with a case of 24 charges from the Victorian Police. My prescription, bed rest and a midday dose of Ellen. Ultimately, the Speaker was forced to use his casting vote in favour of suspension, so Daniel Andrews won't be in for the next 3 days. No prizes for guessing what he'll be doing. The decision then led to a walkout by most of the opposition as they wanted to protest their colleague's suspension. Also, that's enough dancing, thank you. Pope Francis has given a candid interview to an Italian magazine covering a number of topics, including the role of women in the church.
The feminine genius is needed wherever we make important decisions.
So look out for the Feminine Genius Bar at the Vatican in the near future. For The Roast, I'm Mark Humphries.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we've reached the end of Tony Abbott's first week as Prime Minister, and after spending his first few days in office cutting 100% of climate science departments, announcing a 95% male cabinet and appointing himself Minister for Women's Issues, thereby demonstrating 0% self-awareness, Tony has also announced he will consider blocking an ACT same-sex marriage bill, saying, as you know, under the Constitution, the Commonwealth has responsibility for marriage. Good, find me a wife, do your job, Commonwealth. But I guess my future marriage is a pretty low priority, what with all the climate issues that they have to deal with. And by deal with, I of course mean destroy all climate-related institutions and salt the earth where they stood. And this really couldn't have come at a worse time because next Friday, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is going to release its latest report. And since it was the Climate Commission's role to interpret those findings, who is the government going to turn to now?
Hello? Are you okay?
Oh, help me. I've been stuck on here for a week.
Oh, thank God I found you. Can you tell me what this says?
Oh, oceans are rising and climate change is real.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank God you're here. I'm saved.
Hello? Yeah, I'm afraid no one survived. I guess this document will remain a mystery.
But it would be silly to focus on a document that comes out next week, detailing things about the climate which don't exist according to the government. So let's instead look back on the week that was for a coalition that can't stop celebrating.
Tony! 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 Bring on the surplus! Let it run! No more boats! Oh, here we go! 3, 2, 1!
All right, everyone ready to get rid of these things?
Yeah, rigged up and ready to go. 3, 2, 1!
Oh, think of the savings.
Woo!
Guys, wake up.
What day is it?
Friday.
Friday? It's only been 3 days.
Oh, thank God that's over.
Oh my God, Abbott is still going.
What?
He's going after Tim Flannery and ACT same-sex marriage. Hit the thing!
Oh, not the thing.
Yeah, so it's been a busy first week for the new Prime Minister. But with all of these highly controversial changes, I have to say I'm pretty shocked no one brought up the GST. Because if you want to court real controversy, you mention the GST. That's why during the election, Tony Abbott was as categoric as he could be.
Let me be as categoric as I can. The GST won't change. Full stop. End of story.
It's locked away, buried in its tax tomb, never to bother mankind again.
Sleep well, ye mighty beast. I hereby confine you to 200 centuries of imprisonment. I slumber peacefully now, knowing you are locked away. Nighty-night.
Okay, so I guess that's that. We might actually knock off early. So you have a great weekend, everyone. Good night. I'm sorry, what is going on right now?
The GST pool in total, which is a bit over $50 billion, is not growing as quickly as people thought. So all states are saying actually GST needs to go up.
Oh no.
Is it meant to be doing that? That sounds unnecessarily creepy. Oh.
Well, that is just great. Didn't anyone tell Colin Barnett that just saying the letters GST can bring it to life, like John Howard discovered back in 1995?
No way that GST will ever be part of our policy. Never, ever. Never, ever. It's dead.
It wasn't dead, it was just sleeping, and it awoke 5 years later to be introduced in July 2000. And now WA Liberal Premier Colin Barnett has again raised the spectre. Though perhaps that was because Tony Jones lulled him into a false sense of security with this cushy first question on Lateline last night.
Colin Barnett, thanks for joining us.
Yes, good evening, Tony.
How did you manage to get the state's finances in such a mess in the middle of a mining boom?
For his follow-up question, Tony Jones whipped Colin with a cat of nine tails, then shot his best friend. Now, specifically, Barnett called upon the Prime Minister to consider raising the GST from 10% to 12.5% because Western Australia lost its AAA credit rating on Wednesday. But why would we take advice from someone who can't even keep their finances together in the middle of a mining boom and who cries when Tony Jones shoots his friend on national television? Well, according to Captain Povo,
I suspect the Australian people are mature enough to say we'll cop that.
Well, that's very flattering that you think that we as a country are that mature, but I have to say an increase to the cost of living, it's the one thing Australian people never cop.
The legal rights of asylum seekers are being taken away. No, that's not great, but I'll cop it. Ignoring the threat of climate change. I'm not crazy about that either, but I'll cop it. Barnett wants to raise the GST by 2.5%. Oh, this I will not cop. Honey, find me Colin Barnett's second best friend. And can I have an ice cream?
And apparently the Prime Minister is in no mood to cop it either, coming out today and saying literally exactly the same thing he did a month ago.
The GST won't change, full stop, end of story.
How many times does the guy have to finish that story? Anyway, nice try, coinless Colin. Not only have you failed publicly in your attempt to raise a tax on every single person in Australia just to fix your financial mismanagement, you've also somehow managed to end the week in which Tony Abbott attacked climate change, asylum seekers and women in cabinet by making him look like he's concerned for the little guys. So how about we say we'll end our episode here before our scheduled week off next week and you don't ever mention the GST again. Yep? Okay, good night.
Go to sleep, creepy door, that is definitely scary. I'm all alone with the door in perpetual fear. I'm alone with the door, protecting my sweeties. The GST is safe with me, and I hope it never wakens. Oh, yes, please don't wake up.